Hello and welcome to the lesson on rainforest adaptations and cycles. So the learning objective for this lesson is to be able to give two examples of plant adaptations and two examples of animal adaptations. Only last year in the summer exam there was a question on adaptations. It was actually about deserts, not the rainforest, but it could just as easily be a rainforest question, and it was worth 6 marks, which is one of the bigger questions. So this is certainly a question that is quite popular with the examiners. So what plants and animals adapt to? Now the reason I'm asking this is you often have to explain the adaptations as well as describe them. And what you need to remember with the rainforest is that they are hot, so they need to be adapting to the heat. They are humid, so they need to adapt to that, with lots of sunlight and rainfall, and the rainfall is often very heavy. But remember the layers. So in fact, when we talk about the rainforest, there's lots and lots and lots of different ways that adaptations take place. So high up in the emergent layer, the key there really is being able to fly around, because if you're going to get from one tree to another, you're going to have to jump or to fly. Okay. So the animals that live up there, they tend to be birds, or there are some monkeys there and we'll talk about that later. Okay. Did you know most of the food in the rainforest is actually in the canopy? Think about the food chain again, and most of it takes place actually in the canopy itself. So plants and animals want to be there. That's the area of the rainforest that they want to be in. So they often have to adapt in order to do so. However, when you get further down to the forest floor and the understory, the adaptation is actually about the light, and it's very often dark at the bottom. So there are plants, for example, that have adapted to the forest floor and by having extra chlorophyll in their leaves, which means that they can more easily make food out of the little sunlight that actually gets to the forest floor. So here's the first of some plant adaptations. I'm just going to go through 4 plants and 3 animals. There's plenty out there. You can find more on the internet if you want to. There's some examples in the textbook. The key is that you learn 2 of each. Okay, so drip tips. Very simple idea. Remember, it rains very heavily, and if it wasn't for these drip tips, then many of the leaves would simply fall off the trees with the heavy rainfall under the weight of the water falling on them. The V shape at the tip of the leaf allows the water to quickly filter off the plant, to roll off the plant, and that means that those leaves can then adapt. If it wasn't for that, they would become very mouldy because they'd be constantly damp, and like I say, a lot of the leaves would just simply fall off with the weight of the water on them. So remember that, drip tips. Second one, this is about adapting to the need for light. So remember, down below in the forest, look at the picture on the left hand side, it's dark, yes, and it makes it very difficult for plants to grow. So what the liana does, which is effectively a climbing vine, it actually climbs on trees to get high up into the canopy. So most of the leaves of the liana will actually be up in the canopy. It literally is like hitching a lift, but it actually, so you'll see these wrapping themselves around trees and things like that. They're not trying to do the trees any harm or anything like that. They're simply using the tree to get higher up, and that means that it can reach the sunlight where the light is, and that means that they can photosynthesize. So number 2, liana. Number 3 is something called an epiphyte. Okay, and you see very colourful plants. And these are kind of strange because normally you'd expect a plant to have roots in the soil, but not epiphytes. They actually grow on trees, they don't grow in the soil as well. And if you look carefully, you can see that, look at the one on the left hand side, the roots are just dangling in the air. And they manage to get all the goodness that they need actually just from the very humid air, and nutrients are actually in the air. So, and the reason they do this is because they need to get the light. So they rely on birds to eat their seeds and then to drop the seeds, and then the seeds will lodge into the trees, and then they'll just grow there and then wherever the seed has dropped. And very often this might be quite high up the tree. So the most famous example of epiphytes are orchids. So they're not parasites, they're not taking anything from the tree, they're literally just hitching a lift, if you like. They're just growing on trees in order to get to the light. Now the last one of the plant adaptations is adapting to poor soils. This is the bottom of a very large tree, and you'll notice that the roots are actually sitting on top of the soil and they're actually all spread out. So if this is the UK, you wouldn't see those roots at all, they'd be deep underground. But in the rainforest, remember, the soils aren't fertile, so there's no need for the roots to go in there. However, they do need big roots because the trees have to grow very tall to get to the sunlight. So this is the adaptation. They're called buttress roots. Okay, so they're above the ground. Okay, and you'll notice that they act almost like as a foundation to stabilize the tree. So they're very big roots, but they're above ground. What about animals? How did they adapt to the rainforest? Well, one of the main things they've got to adapt to is other predators. Remember that the rainforest is amazingly biodiverse and lots of different animals out there, including things like jaguars, for example, who will hunt down other mammals. And of course, often a popular one, of course, is the sloth. It moves very slowly, and the idea there is to try and conserve energy. Look at this. The average speed is 15 to 30 centimeters per minute. Now, everybody listening to this video can move quicker than that. So, you can always take heart to the fact that a sloth will be the slowest. Right? Sloths are so slow that they have blue-green algae that actually grows on their fur. And this algae, this is the bit you need to try and remember. This is really, really important because actually what it does is it helps them to blend in with the environment. So that picture on the right-hand side, if it wasn't for the face, you actually would be quite difficult to actually tell that there's anything there at all. And of course, what the sloth will do is hide the face a lot of the time. So very often, big cats and things like that are moving around the forest trying to find food will just miss the sloth altogether because it's so well camouflaged. The second one is a different approach actually to trying to avoid being eaten by something else, and that's warning colours. Okay, and these frogs are amazing. And one of the things that the frogs do here is actually have their skin really, really bright, because bright skin is associated with poison. Okay, and this will warn other animals that they can be dangerous to eat. And of course, these frogs are dangerous to eat. Yeah. The one on the bottom left there, the golden variety, is especially poisonous. They're only 5 centimeters long, but their venom is strong enough to kill 10 adults. Okay, so if you ever go to the rainforest, watch out for the frogs because they're probably more dangerous than just about anything else. Now, the other thing that the frogs do here is they don't have to go down to the forest floor because they actually get the water they need from the leaves. Okay, so you can see the one on the right hand side, the red one. You'll notice that that's quite damp, that leaf, and it's the frog doesn't need to go to the forest floor to stay damp. It's because it's just generally damp in the forest, and often the water does collect on certain leaves, as you can see there. Okay, and finally, the monkey. Okay, lots and lots of monkeys live in the rainforest, I'm sure you know, and they have something called a prehensile tail, and that helps them to grip and hold onto the branches. If they didn't do that, they'd have to go down to the bottom of the tree, up to the next tree, and things like that. But what this tail does, it means that they can jump from tree to tree, they can balance, that means they can get the food that they want, and it means that they can travel much more quickly through the rainforest. Okay, very simple idea. Try and remember prehensile if you can. It's not the end of the world if you can't, but try and remember that. And look at the one on the left hand side. You've got a really good picture there of how that tail is helping the monkey to balance and adapt. So just one more thing, remember that water and nutrients such as nitrogen, for example, think of nutrients like the vitamins that are vital for life, are recycled throughout the rainforest ecosystem. Plants contribute to these through the way they intercept the heavy rainfall and also store water. And what we mean by this is that all that heavy rain falling on the top of the rainforest, what the plants do is they stop that heavy rain just simply hitting the forest floor and then washing away the soil. In effect, what the rainfall does, it just drips down, so that it drips off those leaves high up in the canopy. It makes its way very slowly to the forest floor. In fact, much of the water evaporates before it even gets there. And the key really here is without plants and heavy rainfall, the soils would simply. Um, Now, animals contribute to these through their feces. So basically, whenever an animal goes to the toilet, if you think about it, what it is doing is releasing organic matter and fluids, which will go onto the forest floor. So that will help with both the water cycle and the nutrient cycle. And also, insects and fungi, and known as decomposers, also play a very important role, because when things fall to the forest floor, remember, like trees and dead animals, things like that, they play a vital role breaking that down and then making it available for other plants as nutrients. Okay. Without the trees, soils get damaged. So this is a picture from a tribe who had to watch some area of their land getting deforested, and that's what's left behind. As soon as you take those trees away, the heavy rainfall will just simply wash the soils away, and wash what little goodness there is in the soils will be washed away as well. Don't forget to do your textbook work. An activity that you can be doing is to create your own poster to show 2 plant and 2 animal adaptations. And whatever you do, make sure you learn these well. All right, you need 2 of each. You need to be able to explain them as well as describe them. So remember what they're adapting to: the heavy rainfall, the need for light. Those are the 2 main things. And if you get that right, and the need for animals to avoid being predated, it's what we call eaten by other animals, you'll be there. Okay, thank you. Speak soon.